In the last video, we stopped at the design of the transaction head setup, where we took it to this view. We've done the detail view for the editing of the transaction head. So this is the transaction head and this is the subhead. Now, because of the way the parameter area of the application is designed, anything that goes in cannot come out. So there is no need to implement a delete transaction head that will have cascaded to delete the subhead list too. So I'm going to disable this button. So I'm going to go to the application model, and like I said in the last video, most of the work I will be doing will be in this module project, which is the cross-platform part of it. So if I dropped the full project for the Devexpress framework, that will have included the Windows desktop, everything I would have done here would have been available to the two projects. So I come here. Our intention is to disable this delete button, or at least make it disappear. So I'll come here and we go to Catchbook area, transaction head, detail, and I allow delete is equals to false. Save it. They're going to build function F6 to build. So just like I told you initially, that the application model designer was done for you to use a design view to be able to do the things you can do in code. So this thing I just did now is also possible to do it in code. You can see the delete button. Sorry, let me go through the edit. Delete button has disappeared, right? So I said it can also be done in code. So, but along the line, we will see how what will necessitate the reason why you wouldn't want to do what I just did through the designer. So the next thing now is this new button. I don't want it I don't want you to create any new header from here. I am okay with the new header creation button here. So I am going to disable this new, which appears in both the edit view and the read-only view. So to do that is, as you must have guessed, is also very easy from the application designer view. And just like I said, we're not going to be wasting too much time on editing, because this is a parameter view, and normally this is not an interactive area where you have to do much. So I wouldn't mind also removing the ability to save here. So once it's inserted, it's all right for view. Most most often the administrator is the one in charge of this, and most of the database already have some of these parameters for the accounting solution. So I'm going to remove this, but this is where it gets a little bit tricky. If I do this through the application model, that is by thinking that by coming here, if I do this, I want you to see the effect of doing some of these things through the application model and through code. Ordinarily, you will have expected now that, okay, allow edit, so save buttons will disappear, which is true. But guess what? Once we have done that, can you see what happened? First of all, the edit button, even from the list view before we get to the detail view, has disappeared. And remember, what I did was not in the list view. I touched the detail view and said, I don't want the detail view to allow edit. But because the framework has seen that if you are not going to allow edit at all at the detail level, there is no need allowing you at the list level to use an edit button. So there's no way to edit, and if you click here, you will just go straight to read only mode, though the buttons are gone. You can see. So this one will not solve our problem. This one will not solve our problem because we want to be able to edit this part, and that new button too has disappeared here. The new to be able to create this, the subhead. So we want to be able to create the subhead, though we, like I said, we are not interested in the editing, but we want to be able to create. But because I've disabled editing at the application level for the detail view, it has affected three things. It has affected the ability to even click edit button at the list level to go to the detail level. And not only that, when you now go to the detail level, it has also affected the ability to do any editing of the subhead master detail record. So those are the implications. So this is not going to serve our purpose. I'll change it back to true. Then I will now show you how we will do this in code. So if I come back here, everything should be back to normal. So our edit button is back. And once we go to edit, we're back to be able to add new to this. And of course, edit is here too. So we're going to disable a lot of things. Now, let's take care of this. So the way to do it is we have to go to the controller controlling the whole of this page, which is from the naming convention, is the transaction head view model, because that is what we are editing. Though, like I said, the view model is a parent view model that contains the transaction subhead view model as its children. And that is why the interface was automatically designed in this master detail view. So we're editing the transaction head view model detail view, right? So the naming convention is to put the name of the model the view that you want to control of that model, then you now put controller. So this is the controller that controls this view, and this is another view controlled by this controller. So you can see now this one is transaction head view model, which is the model, but this time around list view, then controller. So it is very important to understand the differences. First of all, a naming convention. Then if you look at the detailed view controller, it inherits from a normal view controller. In the former video, this was just the implementation of the presenter set of view, which I've explained. That will be done in every area we want to use the presenter. So a detailed view inherits from a view controller, while a list view inherits from an object view controller of type list view and the model object you want to control the list. So those are very important things. So right now, our aim is to disable this button. So immediately I know I have the code in some other places. Okay, so this is what I am looking for. It's called modification controller. So this is just a field of it. But the most important thing is modifications controller. That is what you can use to intercept the whole of this. So once I've declared the field or property of that type, I will come to the unactivated event and I will get a reference to it in this manner. Let me just copy. This is the code that I am actually looking for. This is exactly what I want to do. So let's do it before doing anything on the presenter. Now, this is how you get a reference to any of the inbuilt controllers. Because this controller, we didn't create it. It is created by the framework. So it's an inbuilt controller. So you always use frame.getController to get a reference to it. Now, this is me, the code disabling each of the type of save action that is existing on the modification controller. And you will see that there are two here, but normally there used to be three of them: save, save and close, and save and new. I think when you are using a non-persistent business object, which is what we're using throughout to for this our view models, maybe it doesn't come with save and new, depending on what. But these two now, we want to disable it. So this code will just leave out this one and we build. Don't forget, unactivated speaks for itself. This is what happens when the controller is activated. So the first thing we are doing is we want to disable those buttons. So you can see they are gone. Now, in this scenario, since we don't even have a save here to even talk of editing these things, it would have been nice to have this thing in read-only mode so that the user does not think that because it's a text, editable text, they need to edit it. So let's turn this to read-only. Or we'll still go to the application model, and I'll go to the detail view, go to this code, I'll say allow edit is equals to false, description, allow edit is equals to false, from F6. So you can see it's now read only. So the next thing we want to do now is the ability to, once we click new, though this is done for us free of charge, but we want to be able to now add a new subhead. So the interesting part uh, of this project, of this part of the implementation, is the selection of the chart that that subhead will report to in the accounting system. So I'm going to start by, let me do a little bit of customization. I just want to call this place transaction head setup. I don't want to use view model. So I go to the application model. When you are looking at the video, ensure you are sensitive to the nodes where most of the items that I'm talking about are located, so that you can even look at the code, because every single modifications I've done has been checked into code commit on AWS, and in the one of the videos I had already shown you how to connect to the code commit. So we've done that. Function F6. I like to confirm at every stage that what I've done is working before I move to the next stage. Yes. So now the next thing is, when I click on new, what I want is I want some buttons here, because this is not going to, we're not going to implement this as a drop down. We're going to implement it as a pop-up. So there's going to be a button here to something like select chart. So that is the next thing I want to do now. I want to put a button on this place. So I need to, what it means now is that I need to control this view. And from looking at the name of this model and this type of view, you should know that this is going to be the transaction subhead view model detail view controller that I want to now do now. So I'll come here, I'll go to controllers folder, then I go to add Devexpress item, add view controller. What's the name? Transaction subhead list view. Sorry, detail view controller. Now, so we want to add a button to this view. The first thing is that we need to scope the controller. We need to tell the framework that the controller is only available for that view. So what do? We choose the object type that is the target of this controller. Of course, that is the transaction subhead view model. Transaction subhead view model controller. Now, I just realized I made a mistake in the naming of the controller itself. This is really very important, the naming convention. Now, it is actually transaction subhead view model, detail view controller. Now, the reason why it's important the view model is there is that it is not every aspect of this application that will just involve this type of non-persistent object. We are still going to create the persistent ones. Those are the models that will eventually become tables in the database. So by naming convention, we just want to be able to know that by looking at a particular, because everything in a XAF application is all about business objects, whether they are persistent in nature or whether they are non-persistent in nature. So our own naming convention is to put view model in front of the ones that are not persistent and leave the word view model out for the ones that are persistent. So if I was trying to target a table called transaction subhead and I want to talk directly to the table, I would just say transaction subhead. So and that would be the name in the database of the table. So I have corrected that mistake and I can go back to scoping the controller. Now, which view are we targeting? I always like to go straight to the application model. Though the naming convention is there, you will see why I said so. But I want to use, we are targeting the transaction subhead view model detail view. So even if I typed it, the fact is that it is the name of the model underscore the type of view, whether it's detail view or list view. So this is the target of our controller. Our controller is there to target this. Then there's one other property I always like to set, view type, which is a detail view. So with this, I have told the framework that look, whatever code I'm writing here is to target this interface here. So I'm good to go. So how do I put that button? I come to toolbox and I add here a simple action. Now, this also needs scoping. So yes, it might be a boring exercise, but it is there to actually make sure that things are working normally. So I can get the parameters I want for the scoping from the controller itself. So I can just click on the dark area to get to the controller. Click on the dark area to get to the controller. I click back on the button to get to the button. And that's all I want to now. So I have scoped also this button to that interface. So I have actually not tried leaving out the scoping for the buttons before to see whether, because the idea of scoping is that let the framework not go and carry something, run a code against a view that is not meant to run a code for. So maybe on your own, you might try to run it and don't scope the button. Hopefully you won't see the buttons appear on other detail view, uh, whatever. So I would like to call this button open chat action. Call it open chat for open chat for trans subhead action. You will see why it is good to always be very, very careful in your naming convention. Now, there are possibilities that I want to open this chat picker in other areas of the application. So the reason why I said this particular one is I needed to make sure that by the time I'm relating with it on the application model, I need to see this name and know that this is the one I'm talking about. So the caption will just be open that, then the category. This is where we now need to, we don't need to choose any category. We need to give it our own category name because of where we are heading to at the end of the day in terms of what we want to implement. So I'll call this category chat of account for subhead. There's no need for any confirmation and there's no condition for it to appear. It should always be available when you get to that view. So I'll do function F6 to build because I now need to go into the application model to do something. Now I'll go to the view and I'll go to items and I'm going to add an action container view item. I'm going to call it part of account for subhead container. Then I want it to be okay. So the action container now you see that name I gave in that instance. That's this name for the category. You see where I need to now reference it. So that is the reason why we gave it that name. So once I click save, hopefully by the time I do function F6, I think there's something else we haven't done. Yes, we need to put it in the layout. Come to customize layout and no, I need to place it in such a manner that I just want it to be underneath the, I want it to be integrated with the chart. Okay, let's see what this one looks like. But this is where you actually do the customization. Yeah. So in the next video, we're now going to implement the pop-up and do some customizations on this screen, and hopefully we'll be able to save a new subhead record. See you in the next video.